Thank you, Dave. It's
Perfect.
started now.
Excellent. So without further ado, I want to, or please join me to welcome our guest speaker from Germany. He is the co-founder and CEO of an innovative company that is working to change the next generation of wearable brand through NFT. The company's name is Brandverse, and our speaker is Kareem Bayound.
Hi, Dave. Thank you for the intro, and thank you for having me here. Super excited to the fact that I'm still up. I didn't sleep for this one, so I'm very glad to be here, and I'm excited to share with you what we've prepared for this presentation and what we're working on specifically at Brandverse. So yeah, I'm all in on that. So let's do this. I'll share my screen from my side. Can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes.
We can see it.
Okay, awesome. So thank you, everyone, first. And obviously this year we've seen a huge surge in NFTs demand in 2021. Obviously, the media likes to highlight where the money is, so people go directly when they see headlines involving millions of dollars. So we're here, Brandverse, to talk about NFTs. What are NFTs? How an overview of blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies, digital, and how will they change digital identity and ownership? A history of NFTs, the surge we've seen last year, and what are we doing at Brandverse differently? And hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll have some tools to buy your first NFT. And we're actually giving away one NFT for this talk. And we'll get to that in just a bit, so don't snooze out on this one just yet. So what is an NFT? NFTs are basically non-fungible tokens that represent authentic ownership of scarce, unique assets on an open permissionless ledger, aka blockchain. Now there's a lot to unpack here, so we're gonna tackle it one by one, starting by how does a permissionless ledger, aka blockchain, work? So blockchain is basically a special type of database where transactions are not governed by a single entity, but rather the entire transaction history is recorded in a decentralized, distributed nodes or network of nodes or computers around the world, which makes it a safe and robust technology for storing and processing sensitive information. So when we look at sensitive information and the technology, which is blockchain, this makes it a perfect use case for cryptocurrencies, because every single transaction that has ever taken place within the network is recorded permanently, and it is not possible to change the ledger's history or send the same transaction twice. And this is very important because we need to trust the system. If we are not using an intermediary in the middle, we need to trust it. So it must be open and transparent so we can all see one shared reality. And once we all together agree on that reality, this is called consensus. So transactions are stored inside blocks, and each new block refers to the one before it using a unique identifying number called hash. Now, I'm not going to go in the details of how mining actually works, but I'm going to give an example of what actually happens when person A sends a person B 1 Bitcoin, for example, or 0.000 something Bitcoin, because Bitcoin today is like, it's not everyone can actually send 1 Bitcoin to the other. But yeah, so person A sends person B 1 Bitcoin. So basically the transaction request is then sent to a peer-to-peer network consisting of nodes. And then the validation process starts and the implementation of new blocks is done by miners around the world who are rewarded for participating in securing the network. Their reward is basically newly mined Bitcoin. Now, your transaction, if legit, goes inside that block, and that block is then added to the chain, thus the name blockchain. Now, this is all cool and all, but how is that related to NFTs in any way possible? So in 2008, Satoshi Nakamoto, or that organization or individual, introduced Bitcoin as the first cryptocurrency using blockchain as the infrastructure technology. Now, the thing here is that it only allowed peer-to-peer payment. So you can only send money or receive money. What if I want to do more complicated operations using that technology? What happened then? So introducing smart contract enabling blockchains. Now, why do we need smart contract enabling blockchains? And what are smart contracts? Simply put, they are programs stored on a blockchain that run when predetermined conditions are met. So when, if, then. So they are simply like normal contracts, but they do not require a third-party intermediary in the middle. And they automate the execution of an agreement so that all participants involved in this agreement can be certain of the outcomes, and it saves you time, money, and it's convenient because you don't need that third party to actually verify that these two entities are in fact legit, and they don't need to trust each other. So how does that apply to non-fungible tokens? And we're going to take Ethereum as an example here. So when we look at token standards, there are on Ethereum specifically, we have two types of token standards, and ERC20, which represents fungible, and the ERC721, which is non-fungible. Now, what does this mean? They are token standards. They are standards for the creation of smart contracts that enable the issuance of tokens. So the ERC20 token standard is used for fungible, and the ERC721 is used for non-fungible. The biggest difference between the two is that the ERC721 contract has the ability to identify single tokens, and the ERC20, you cannot identify single tokens. So, for example, if I am issuing a contract, which is ERC20, that contains 1 million tokens, these 1 million are all the same. It's like they're all basically the same in terms of if you own token 1 or token 2, doesn't make a difference. But with an ERC721, it's actually not the same because you have a unique token identifier. So when put in the world of NFTs, if you own the ape number 4500, you can pull out the link where that image or JPEG is, or basically any digital file is stored. And this all happens where you have proof of ownership on a permissionless, immutable blockchain. So in a nutshell, in a real life example that is used quite a lot, if me and you, both of us have a $5 bill and we flip them together, it's actually the same value. But with the Mona Lisa, for example, there's only one Mona Lisa and it's in the Louvre in Paris. So if you go on Google and print out a Mona Lisa and hang it here on your wall, you don't actually own it. So similar to the people who say, I right-click saved in NFT. So everyone who says that, they just downloaded the Mona Lisa off of Google, basically. So there are certain these are the major differences between these two type of token standards. And for our use case of NFTs, we're using ERC 721. So why should you care? Because NFTs, and this is an NFT here also in the photo, and they provide a verifiable and transparent mechanism for providing ownership of virtual property or digital assets. So you can own land, you can own avatar skins, digital art, online pets, without the need of a third party to validate that all of this is happening, that is true, because it's on the blockchain. So they're developed and created on an open and secure ledger. And this is the backbone for Metaverse development, because it will enable us empower creatives and artists. We will have new business models emerging that will create new job opportunities. We're seeing now people who are working in virtual lands to do the job there, like, and this is actually mind-blowing when you see that. And for someone who hasn't been so immersed in the space, like, there are virtual jobs being created on virtual real estate. And the magic of NFTs is also lies within communities, because when communities of like-minded individuals group together with shared values, incentives, and it hits different. So now when someone says that people are buying JPEGs on the internet, you can now tell them that this is not very true, because JPEGs is the equivalent of the skin that you see, and what you're truly buying the magic lies within the bones and the skeleton inside, which is the smart contract that issues these tokens. And what you own is the token represented by this JPEG. And the JPEG is what people are relating to inside a certain community, or what it actually represents, or whatever. So of course, we're going to talk about a lot of types of NFTs. JPEGs were the ones that made the headlines, profile picture avatars specifically, because people, again, the news goes where the money is. And that's why people, this is basically what has happened on the NFT timeline. And don't worry if you still didn't buy your first NFT, because it's still very early. And hopefully by the end of this presentation, you will have gathered some basic information to equip you to get in. Because me specifically, I will never go in and buy something just because someone told me to. I do my research and really try to look at it from multiple different angles, then go to the thing that really resonates with you, because at the end of the day, you want to buy something you want to buy, not just because someone told you to buy it or because of monetary gain directly. So here's a timeline of what happened so far, starting from ENS launch, which is ETH naming service, and we'll dig into that in a bit, up until basically big fashion brands such as Nike and Adidas joining the space most recently. And we're going to talk about the different types of NFTs that we've seen all around us. ETH naming service, for those who do not know, is basically the naming of web domains on ETH. So it's like the equivalent of .com, but it's .eth. So now you can own your own name. Let's say, I don't know, Kareem.eth. If it's available, you can own it. And people can send value to that Ethereum wallet you have using that name. You can also use that name to build a web page behind it. So it's a really cool concept, and people are going actually mental and crazy about the ETH naming service, specifically because imagine you own, I don't know, like pizza.com when it came out and when the websites came out. So now if you really like fish for the right ETH domains, you can make a really solid amount of money in the near future, when people actually, all of them, wake up to Ethereum's naming service. So we go on different types of NFTs. So we've got art, we've got profile pictures, we've got collectibles. If you are a sports fan of any sort or have ever collected sports cards, NBA Top Shot revolutionized what type of what type of moments you can collect. And imagine you collect here, we've seen in this slide, like LeBron James highlights, and you can own this video of your favorite basketball player and trade it and do collections behind it and stuff like that. Virtual land, most popular are Decentraland and Sandbox, and similar to what you can do on a normal land, you can do on a virtual land. You can build avenues and rent them out and make passive income on top of that. We've got gaming and music, a new gaming model, which is play to earn, has been being developed recently instead of pay to play, which is the old Web2 model. Now gamers can participate inside a game, and in exchange for their time and effort they're putting there, they can win in-game assets such as swords, skins, and stuff like that. Those are also tradable for in-game tokens on the secondary market as well. So it really revolutionizes how gaming and how gamers can approach gaming. Others such as ETH naming service and POAP. We will talk about POAPs just in a few, and we also have a POAP ready for tonight's event. So I will explain what POAPs are in just a bit. So what happened with art? So last year in 2021, a painting by a piece of art by people called Every Day, the First 5,000 Days, sold for $69 million. And this obviously made a lot of headlines. And people were like, what? People are buying digital art for millions of dollars. Well, art historically has always outperformed the S&P 500 by more than 250%. So for it to be like really shocking, it's not, because the data shows otherwise. And if people, the thing is, how people value art is the thing, the magical thing that's happening right now, because art has always been and put behind closed doors and gates for a lot of time. And people who value art are closed communities of 20, 30 people who agree that this piece of art is worth $20 million. Now imagine when a piece of art is put out on the internet and you can actually own it. So you can own the Mona Lisa because you're buying the digital version of it. And not just these 20 closed circle of people can decide the value of it, rather the whole world can actually say this is valued at such. So this is when we talk about the art market. And then we go on profile pictures, which we've seen around us. People were trading a cartoon monkey, which is the one on the bottom right, which are Bored Apes, for more than hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars. And well, why this sudden craze of PFPs? Because, well, it represents digital identity. People have always wanted to have this character, this avatar of themselves, this extended version of themselves when they go into online games and stuff like that. And now you can actually prove that you own this PFP that's worth $100,000. So now it's a social flex, it's a status symbol. It's a revolutionary concept of how people can, it's a conversation opener. If you find someone having his profile picture on Twitter as this, and you also have the same one, you automatically bond on this because it's a community of these people. And then this was proven as well by the traded volume of PFPs because people found value into them. So we see that profile picture NFTs represented 44.5% of the trading volume of NFTs last year in 2021. And then we see gaming at 20% and art at 12%. Now we come to why are industry leading fashion brands moving to Web3? So we've seen the likes of Moncler, Gucci, Balenciaga, and they all want to come and take a piece of the metaverse, this whole new trending topic, a very hot topic. Why are they doing that? Because it's another tool to establish contact with a younger generation. So anyone born after the year 2002, 2003, which is now like let's say 20 years old, these people have been, these people were born with the internet at their fingertips. So, and then the people born after that year, which represent the new generation of consumers, were born in an era where life was already digital. So it's not like they saw the difference between what wasn't and what was. So when you have an era of consumers that know life only in its digital form, it only makes sense that these big fashion conglomerates to have an avenue where they can sell their goods in the medium where those people are present, which is the digital medium. So we've seen Adidas partnered up with Bored Apes this year, and they entered the space with like, it was like a very huge news, and it made a lot of headlines. Now, the reasoning is because brands want to be early in a potentially brand new industry. It's a new revenue stream for them. And it's basically, they need another platform to increase their brand visibility, similar to when Web2 came in and social, and brands needed to be on these social networks because people were spending time there. So imagine now that with Web3, social has become more interactive, more immersive, and now the mix, the blend between digital and physical has become more and more apparent. So it makes sense for these brands to be there so that people can actually buy and interact with them. So what are we doing at Brandverse, and how are we doing it different? Well, we are planning to redefine brand building for Web3 environment. So we basically think that a brand born from Web3 should represent the values, the openness, the trust, and the inclusive values of Web3. We want to be the bridge between the physical and the digital. We really think that the physical touch is mandatory and it can still create more awareness for the brand. The thing we're doing different basically is big fashion brands came into Web3, and these represent the brands that are more than $1 billion in revenue. Now, there is a huge market segment for everything between 10 and 100 million, which are these brands, which are the brands in the physical world. But we think that we can create a brand inside from Web3 using the power of community and take it to the physical world. And it doesn't need to be a $10 billion brand for it to be an actual successful brand or something that people can relate to. This is the market segment that we think is untapped, and we highly believe that we can become an accelerator for Web3 native brands, and we're on a mission to empower the creators, the artists, the designers, the marketers to build and own the next generation of wearable brands, because brands in the past were built in siloed environments where a creative director and some sort of brand experts sit together in a room and decide on the positioning and the name and the logo and everything related to the 4 Ps of this brand, and then come sell it to the audience and they make it fit and resonate. How about if a community of people get to participate and take part in the creation of this brand? So now, instead of you just guessing what will resonate or not, you're actually having people telling you what will resonate with them or not. So market research model flipped. Instead of you basically second guessing if this is gonna work, if anyone has here worked in an agency before and rebranded some sort of brand, what usually happens is that this agency does some research and says, okay, this product of yours should be branded like this because we think that this audience is gonna buy it when it's positioned in this way. Now, what if we show the product to the people, which are the community, and the community says, okay, I think this should be named this, and I want to participate in a competition where I want to design the logo. Now it hits different. The resonance factor is different. So we truly believe that our community comes first, because without it, nothing can work. We have a strong belief in innovation and collaboration to reach our end goal, because the whole concept of the company and why it was born, because instead of one single person going to create a brand, we really think that people, when grouped together, especially innovative people, and when they collaborate together, then the creativity multiplies, and then the end result is going to be prolific, because you're not the only one thinking that you are the creative. Everyone can take part, of course, within guidelines and structured processes, but the end goal is to always reward ownership. And we highly believe that dedication and perseverance are key values to help us achieve our long-term vision, because without that, we know that the biggest brands in the world weren't born in one day, and Rome wasn't built in a day, and we know that, and we're gonna work hard and be dedicated to achieve our long-term vision. So the power of community is actually magical, and especially in the NFT space, and it's really mandatory for a project's longevity. Besides, of course, delivery of quality content and actually having a good product, the community is what makes it or breaks it. Because with Web3, you do not build from the top to the bottom, which is the Web2 approach. You build from the bottom to the top, and the bottom is basically the community. And if all these people have shared incentives, aligned vision, aligned values, they all can talk to one another and learn and basically build with one another, then your project's long-term success rate is really higher than any other project that just comes in within 2 days, wants to launch something. And we've only got to know that because ourselves, the founders as well, we're really immersed in the space. And before deciding to found a project, we were NFT traders and basically doing NFTs with our full-time job to understand how the community works, and then actually launching a project. What we've seen right now is someone comes in the space, buys their first NFT, and then the second day wants to launch a project. Well, it doesn't work this way. You need to really understand how the space works and then come launch a project. Of course, if you're an artist, you're a musician, you're some sort of creative, that's a totally different thing. But yeah, so what is POAP? Because we were talking about that. So POAP is basically proof of attendance protocol. They're these little digital badges that you can own and store inside your wallet. They're really cool. Why? Because imagine you go to a concert, and then this concert, the artist basically distributed POAPs. You have this POAP now in your wallet. 2 years later, you're having coffee somewhere, and you're showing your POAPs to this person you're having coffee with, and they tell you, oh, you were there at that concert? I was there too. Now it changed social interaction because it created some bond in a conversation opener, a lot of the stuff. So imagine your digital bookmark. You can have a diary of all your nice events that you attended. If you go to a book club or something like that, it's just a really cool to keep memories. And when you're working with a project that really requires a community first approach, such as Brandverse, we really needed to verify who are the members that are actually participating in creating those brands with us. So we use POAPs. So everyone who participates with us in these events will get a POAP. And for this specific event today, we actually have a POAP. So stay till the end, because you can scan a QR code to get your very first NFT if it was your first. So this is how our phase 1 looks like. So we have community generated brands. We promote participation and active involvement through POAPs, because we can verify on-chain, which is something that's not revocable. It's going to be always there. We can verify who was there and who actually took part. And then if you collect X amount of them, you will unlock what we call the Brandverse key. And this is an NFT that will give you access to all future wearables by Brandverse, starting by our first wearable, which is basically the watches that we will show in a bit. So I just want to, I know that it's been 30 minutes, I think, since I've been talking. So I want to take a deep breath, let you guys scan this POAP. It just requires an email to collect it. But then if you want to mint it, you need an Ethereum wallet address. But for now, if you don't have an Ethereum wallet address, it's fine. You can claim it with just an email. And then later, when you create a wallet, you can say, okay, I'm minting this one. And of course, if there are any issues, please contact poaps@brandversenft.com. Okay. I'll move. So what is the ambassador key that we were talking about and what does it do? So this ambassador key that still didn't drop yet, so we're still in the building phase, by the way, will unlock all future wearables. So if you own it, you will always have access to each drop that comes from Brandverse, because we want to empower the people who were there, who were actually participating in creating this brand with us. So they get an ambassador key because you're a brand ambassador. And because you're a brand ambassador, this gives you the right to get one wearable from each of these drops for free because you were there. This is how we promote participation. This is how we flip the branding model. And this is how we think that community comes first and we put our words where it truly matters. Not just we say community comes first, we put it on chain, a verifiable proof. So then after that, so the community, so basically when you have this Brandverse ambassador key, you can participate in educational events about branding and how brands are built. You can vote on the elements that shape up the wearable. So you want the name. So we will present multiple various pitch decks, which are brand decks, and people can actually vote on how they want it to look and what the name is and the logo, and then participate in contests to design a logo for the wearable. And then this is basically the perks of having the ambassador key. You can decide on the future development of brands. You can learn branding. You can engage with like-minded people. And of course, get access to all these future wearable brands. A community of brand creators. So to give people true ownership to users, and basically the community will be provided with full transparency on what's happening behind the scenes. So imagine we are like a Web3 branding agency that gives back the power to the community to showcase what is really happening behind the scenes of building a brand and involving them throughout the process. And this after we launch, after we get to the brand ambassador key, we then go into phase 2, which is launching our brand, both on the digital and the physical product, which the digital basically, so the NFT, you can put that wearable on your specific avatar. We will have augmented reality integration so that you can see the watches in AR. And of course, you can use those NFTs within the metaverse of your choice, because our 3D assets will be extractable in multiple different formats. It's really important to highlight what the metaverse is going to look like. It's going to be a combination of a lot of different NFTs coming together in a certain realm. And it's not going to be one, it's not going to be Facebook for sure. And it's not, even if they rebrand it to Meta, that doesn't mean they own the metaverse. And actually they received a lot of backlash from the NFT community because, well, they're not the most liked, but that's a topic for another discussion. And so we will be hosting virtual and real life fashion shows and exhibition to showcase our wearables. And we really think that the physical product will help us achieve mainstream adoption. So here's where we are now. This is our first wearable brand, which is the watches that we're creating. This is just 2 out of 2,500, which will all be unique, identifiable on chain, basically because they have a unique ID. They are ERC 721 standard, so you can identify each one differently. So how to buy your first NFT? Because this is what we all came for here, right? So we need to set up a wallet, buy the crypto. Although, of course, there are some places where you can buy with a credit card, but you'll find a lot more options when you buy with crypto. And then you go to the marketplace or you mint it, and then you purchase your NFT. What is minting? Minting is basically buying your NFT for the first time from the creator of that NFT. So the marketplace is when you buy it from the secondary market, and the minting is when you buy it from the original creator. So here are some examples of marketplaces that are available around us. So OpenSea is the biggest, NBA Top Shot, where you can buy NBA highlights, Axie Infinity, one of the biggest, I think the biggest play to earn game. LooksRare, a new marketplace that came out, Sandbox, Decentraland, which are virtual land marketplaces. You can buy and trade virtual land. And here is the active NFT collections on OpenSea. We've seen a huge increase from 500 to 3,500 just this year. So a 7x increase. And then why is it really important to take your crypto security seriously? Because if you want to interact with a decentralized protocol, which is the blockchain, and you want to be financially free from the ties of a centralized system, which is the bank, then obviously there is no centralized entity to play the police role, because you're all on by yourself. And if you're all by yourself, this means you have to take responsibility and be safe, because if you get scammed, there is no one to go cry to, no one's gonna solve it for you. So this is why Senior Fluffle, which is an NFT, is gonna guide us on how to take our security very seriously. By the way, just a disclaimer, I am a proud owner of Fluff World NFT, and here what he's holding in his hand is a crypto wallet called Ledger, which I also very much support. So just a disclaimer, I'm not being paid for this ad, by the way, not at all. So what are crypto wallets 101? So we have to look at, this is MetaMask, which is a hot wallet, so a software wallet. It's a Google Chrome extension. And when we look at MetaMask, we have some certain elements inside it that we need to dissect. First is your wallet address, which we see here on the screen. This is the equivalent of your IBAN for the bank, or basically your post office box. And seed phrases are basically a 12-word combination of your password. This is something that you should never, ever, ever share with anyone. Why? Because let's assume your laptop crashed, gets burned, whatever, and then you need to access your MetaMask or your wallet again. You just get another laptop and plug in your existing seed phrase, and then your crypto is back. This is why you and only you should have access to your seed phrase. And then we talk about your crypto and your keys. We have two types of keys. Basically, the value or the crypto you own is on the blockchain, but when you create a wallet, you generate two sets of keys. One is called the public key, one is called the private key. So your private key is basically what we discussed, which is the seed phrase, it's not the seed phrase particularly, but it is used to sign the transaction. So you alone should have access to your private key. And the public key is basically used to receive funds. So equivalent to the IBAN or the wallet address that we shared before. So this is why a hardware wallet is much more secure than a software wallet, because when you use a software wallet, the security of it is tied to the security of the device it is on, i.e. your laptop or your mobile. And they are not made for securing Web3 value. They are really good at doing Web2 stuff, sending emails and all of this stuff. But if you want to secure your most valued assets, you need something with much more and much advanced technology in terms of security. So we talk about Ledger, which is one of the best crypto wallets in the world and probably the leader. So the ideal difference is that when you use a hardware wallet, you have an extra layer of protection that is protecting your crypto. So another layer of security, and the most important difference is that with a hardware wallet, the private key is stored offline. It's not online. With a software wallet, the private key is always online. So to give this analogy, to make it like visual, imagine you leave your home, you lock your key, your door with a key, and then you keep that key under the pot, the plant that is on next to the door. Obviously, you didn't tell the scammer that the key is there, but it's not the most secure, right? So, however, with a hardware wallet, you're always keeping it offline. So this is basically the difference between private key, public key, hardware wallets, software wallets. Well, obviously, when you're just starting out with crypto, you don't need at first to invest directly in a hardware wallet, but it's like $130, $140. So I think the moment you have more than $500 worth of crypto, you should directly get a hardware wallet. What about the closing thoughts? So here is basically how much use cases for NFTs we can have. And I know for sure that NFTs will open a new world of great opportunities for us in the emerging metaverses. And I hope that the future enjoys a healthy form of community governance, because when we incorporate immersive technologies, it will allow the birth of new economic models where real-world businesses and applications will be expanding into the virtual spaces, or even better, a virtually born business will expand into the physical world. Thank you so much for listening. And Q&A. Oh, this is our team, and we're all around the world, as you can see. And Q&A. Please also feel free to give us a follow on Twitter, LinkedIn. For today's POAP, here's the QR code one more time. So yeah.
That was wonderful, Kareem. Thank you so much for that presentation. There's a few questions on our chat. First one is from Sue Gilmer. She asks, what is the investment of time necessary to understand how NFT and Metaverse and blockchain operate, as well as the related lexicon used to communicate in the space? This seems to be the greatest obstacle to the widespread adoption of this platform, which will create value to investors.
So the question is, how much time is needed?
Mm-hmm. So how much time does it take to learn and understand NFT, Metaverse, blockchain, because they're so widespread and there's so much information?
Well, I'll give you my personal experience, what I did. When I discovered crypto like 2-3 years ago, something like that, when I went really down the rabbit hole, I did something with basically, I knew that if I know more, because here the space is like, if you know more, you're more equipped to enter it, and you can really have an edge over someone else who doesn't know. And when you know this, you tend to think, okay, then it's worth for me to do my entire due diligence, because if I have this weapon, which is knowledge, I will literally outperform everyone else in terms of monetary gain, how I approach the space, how much knowledge I have. So always don't think about how much money, how much time I should put. So like 6 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Think about it in terms of how much time can I put to give myself an edge over someone else, and then your approach to it will entirely shift. And of course, it's different between one person to the other. But the key thing to do at first, before diving down the rabbit hole and get lost within so many things, is to identify what is your best learning mechanic. Because if you are a video person or a podcast person or an article person, those are three different things. If you really know how you teach yourself, you will double down on the most efficient way for yourself, and you'll find yourself learning faster than someone else who didn't identify these three things.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Sue, for that question. And the second question is from Juan Ocampo. He asked, is there a relationship between the price of Ether and the price of NFT?
That's actually a really nice question, because sometimes I tell Gabriele, my co-founder, like, what if we arrive when we want to launch and ETH is at, like, today is, I think, is at 3K, but then it's at ETH at 1K, and then what happens? Well, yes, obviously, to say that there is no relation is not accurate, but to say that they are directly or indirectly related is also inaccurate, because you have collections that get directly impacted with the rise and fall of price of ETH, and you have stuff that just don't move. Doesn't matter how much ETH is, they're gonna be priced at this much. So 1 ETH equal 1 ETH at the end of the day. It's really worthy to note why I focused on Ethereum in this particular presentation, because Ethereum is, for me personally, is ultrasound money. It's an asset that's deflationary, not just like, not stable in terms of supply. It's going to be deflationary. So supply is going to be less with time, making it more rare and scarce. The use case of Ethereum is fundamental, because I think Dr. Kala was talking before the break about the two protocols, about how the internet works. If you think about it, these two protocols capture zero value. There is no value captured there. But with Ethereum, everything built on top of it is gonna make Ethereum more valuable, because you need Ethereum to transact and do stuff. The major problem right now with ETH is the gas fees, or the transactional fees, which makes it really a turnoff for people new to the space and wanting to approach it, telling them, hey, you need to pay $100 to get the transaction through. And that's why people are getting away from it and going to more like cheaper blockchains such as Solana and Tezos. So my personal advice for someone approaching the space, don't get affected by the price of ETH and price of NFTs. Go try yourself with something that is cheaper in terms of transactional volume, make some gains there, then come approach ETH, because I think it's going to be the future.
Yeah.
I'm biased, of course.
That's a good advice. Another question from Nazir Ahmadi. In the beginning of the presentation, you were talking about mining and Ethereum. How do you think miners are going to be affected after Ether 2.0? And how will that affect the price of NFT, since they are bought and sold through Ether?
Well, when ETH 2.0 rolls out eventually, hopefully, it can really come. I just need it now, because it will solve a lot of issues. But basically, when ETH 2.0 comes out, so you remember when I was on that slide, I said I will not go in the details of how mining works, but thank you for asking this question, because now we can identify what I highlighted as consensus, right? I said there is something called consensus, and there are multiple methods of consensus. One of them is proof of work, which is what Bitcoin is built on, which is mining, and what Ethereum is built on. However, this consensus mechanism makes it extremely expensive to make transactions, because only the transaction throughput and output is limited. So you can't have 1 million people sending transactions through per second. And then it's not energy efficient, because you have people like spending so much kilowatt hour for electricity to actually validate transactions. So the transition to proof of stake will impact miners on the short run, making them not make money for miners, because this was their way to make money. But on the macro level, proof of stake is inevitable to make this protocol scalable. Right now, we can't have Ethereum only at 100 transactions per second and consider it to be the protocol that will revolutionize the world. Because at 100 transactions per second, we must be kidding ourselves to think that it will go anywhere. It needs to go to 100,000 TPS. And for that to happen, we need the transition to proof of stake. So yeah, the miners might be impacted. They might be sad for a little while, but on the macro, it's way better for the whole ecosystem to transition to POS. I hope that answered your question.
Very nice. We only have maybe 7 more minutes. Here's a question from Graham Olson. Why are there different cryptocurrencies? Are they actually different, or are they just have different names? Why are some NFT values so highly? Who decided that an AI generated monkey is worth $13,000?
Which one should I answer first?
Maybe the first one. Why is there different cryptocurrencies?
Well, different cryptocurrencies because you have different use cases. So you have coins and then you have tokens. You have protocols such as Ethereum that allow you, like they are smart contract enabling blockchains, which means when you have two types of contract standards, so ERC20 and ERC721. ERC721 is used for NFTs, but ERC20 is basically used for anything else. So you have Chainlink, USDT, all of those that are tokens you see when you go on CoinMarketCap. If they are built on Ethereum, they are built with the ERC20 standard. And these allow you to, because this is a smart contract, so you can have some sort of financial products that the bank usually gives you, but now you don't need the bank because you can have everything written in mathematical equations and code inside the smart contract. So you can have, for example, lending and borrowing protocols. You can have a protocol where you can put your money in and then take interest on it. You can have DeFi mechanics, basically all of that incorporated, all thanks to smart contracts. So that's why you have a lot of coins and tokens, and then each one of them is a different use case. So if you want something related to supply chain, you can go look at VeChain specifically. If you want something related to stable coins, which are backed to the dollar, you look at USDT and USDC and that kind of stuff. So really, depending on the use case, that's why you have a lot of tokens.
Got it. And who would decide that an AI generated monkey is worth $13,000?
Well, the market. I think Gary Vee puts it in a really nice way when he said, well, you can't say that what is value? Value is two or more people agreeing that this certain thing is worth this. If me alone, I agree, if me alone say, hey, this glass is worth $10,000 and no one buys it, it means it's not worth $10,000. But if I say it's worth 10,000 and there is at least one person ready to pay 10,000, then this is value, the definition of it. Mm-hmm. So if two or more people are agreeing that this AI generated monkey is worth 13K, then obviously it is. This is value.
Yeah, very nice. Sue Gilmore asked another question. If you never share a private key or seed question, what happens to the content of your wallet if you die?
That's a really good question, because honestly, I had a friend I met in one of the communities that I am in, and he passed away last year. And we were like trying to solve this because he had an NFT portfolio worth more than $100,000, and we wanted to get it to his wife, and we couldn't know what to do. And honestly, it's a very good question. To be completely honest, I don't have the answer, but one solution is that you can share it with your wife if you trust her enough. I mean, or like your husband or something. I mean, it's a really critical thing, because at one point you don't want to share it with anyone, but another point, what if someone dies? You know, that's very true.
Yeah, that is a very good question. It's something to think about. Last question before we end today. Are you going to use Discord to launch your watch collection? How are you getting funding for Brandverse?
What's the second one? Are we what?
How are you getting funding for Brandverse?
Funding.
As in, how do you get seed money to operate your Brandverse company?
Okay, so yeah, first one, Discord. We already have a Discord server where there are our community members. Second one is funding. So usually, because NFTs are revolutionizing the way capital is raised, because now you can have a community around a particular project, believing in the project, what it wants to do, and raise money through an NFT drop. However, we thought that we needed, with the oversupply of new projects coming in, we have, when 1 year ago, when the Bored Apes dropped, during that week, there was only that drop, only. Today, during a day, there's more than 20 drops, or even more. So imagine the explosive potential of the thing, which means, and the market didn't, the demand side of the market didn't grow at the same rate. So you have now an influx of huge supply and little demand to actually absorb this. So what we did is we wanted to stand out. We wanted to have at least an MVP ready to show the people before we go to the NFT drop and raise money. So we raised the pre-seed, which we were lucky enough to have it. And this gave us pre-operational runway so that we get to mint day, and then on mint we can raise more money and then fund our project even further, and then hopefully achieve what we want to achieve. Yeah.
Very nice. And then the very last question, can you share, or can you email out both PowerPoints and contact information for these talking tonight?
Can I share the PowerPoint? I think we recorded this one, no?
Yeah, we did. Maybe we can share the recording.
It's gonna go on YouTube, at least from our side. We're gonna put it on YouTube, no? Pharaoh can confirm on this one.
Excellent. And that was ASIAC. There's no other question in the chat queue. Kareem, Bayound, thank you so much for enlightening us with what the NFT is and the world that is just so new to us. This has been very helpful to understand, and you spoke so eloquently in explaining it in a level that I can understand. We all thank you very much.
I hope it was really helpful, because when we were preparing it, also we had this conversation on our previous call, basically, how deep should I go on the topic? And I was trying to make it like as fun as possible without losing people's interest, because, you know, when you get too technical, it's like, okay, can this guy just shut up, you know? and I was like, okay, let's make it fun. So that's why we included a POAP and made it like a little bit interactive and stuff. So I hope you really liked it. And if you have any questions for us, please reach out. And yeah, that's it from my side.
Cool. Professor Mangal, can we stop the recording?